a lot of women are very, very, very delusional.
The red pilling of Princella the Queen Maker.
Women are putting their hands on men, and men are not calling the cops. Well, here's the problem. Women don't live in reality. Men feel like they are being taxed for their biology. Women don't understand the male world at all. And if he does not play to every single thing that she has in her mind, she wants to blow up the world.
In this video, Princella the Queen Maker reveals her most explosive, life-changing revelation that has the red pill screaming.
Checkmate.
There are certain things she's already said about men that we can't unhear, but she admits that men's views on modern women, feminism, and the modern dating pool were right all along. Men, prepare yourselves to be completely mentally liberated.
Now, you know, you do come back. I see you with the blingery on. So the YouTube streets must be treating you well. Talk about the transformation. You know what I'm saying? We do see you glowing up. We see the glow up.
Yes.
Talk about that.
Well, you know, life is about transforming. So the more you learn, the more you grow, the more you tap into unrealized parts of yourself. So when I first started this thing, it's always been about women's empowerment for me. But I learned so much going along, and what I've come to realize, part of the glow up for me is realizing that women need a lot more help than they're actually getting, because their issues are not just surrounded by men. Most of their issues lie within themselves. And coming to realize that the message has taken on a new evolutionary path in a direction that I didn't even know how deep it could be. But at this stage in the ball game with leadership development and things like that, we're evolving into speaking at conferences and events and things like that to really, really hone down where women need to really transform to help themselves, because I think we get really lost in this idea of relationships. So where I've evolved into is really more of a spiritual direction, as opposed to just focusing on relationships, if that makes sense.
I mean, don't mind me. It just never gets old when you see one of the top misandrists start becoming aware and they get red pilled.
Good, because I was actually going to ask you, right? If anybody's followed you, right, you have some quote unquote controversial, if you will, thoughts about men versus women or men and women. Mm-hmm. Have any of those thoughts or the things that you preach, has any of those changed or evolved, right? I remember watching Malcolm X movie, and he said that, you know, at first he was so centered on only black people till he traveled the world and seen that other white people believe in Islam just like they do. And so he evolved, and that's kind of what changed him. Now that you speaking to many women, many men about these scenarios that you preach, has your stance changed, or is it still the same?
It's still the same, but it has evolved, because when I began doing this, I've always saw it in phases, and I've always saw it as an evolutionary path. And in my mind, I've always known that women needed a lot of help, that women needed a lot of development. But in order to start that process, women needed to know about men, because ultimately women don't know anything about men. They think they do, but they don't. They know nothing. And so a lot of women have their identities wrapped up in men. So speaking about men, men are really only like 10% of the equation. Women are 90% of the equation. So after I talked about men, men are men. They can't be anything more than that. They're not going to change. They're not going to become cats, dogs. They're not going to evolve into women. So after I finish speaking about men, there's really nothing else to tell women about men that I haven't already told them. So once that conversation is over, now we have to turn the mirror towards women. And what you find out is that in these dynamics, 90% of the discussion has to be on women. And I find that women have a lot of problems. I find that women are very, very narcissistic.
She is definitely cooking. However, I still don't trust her 100%. And now she's really starting to sound like us fellas.
And they do not realize it. I think women lack a lot of self-awareness. And how I've taken my message, because I've got a little comedic edge, I find a way to show women themselves in a way that not many people can get women to admit that they are wrong. I have a way of getting women to admit, damn, I'm a terrible person, right? I've gotten women to see how terrible they are as friends, as relationship partners. Women are terrible relationship partners, right? But, you know, for me,
This is really polarizing in a sense, because now I'm ready to defend the women, because yes, the majority of women are terrible relationship partners. However, there's still the outliers out there. So before the sisterhood get your panties in a bunch, because we know y'all like to tussle, I'm about all that smoke too. So I'm just saying, there are still some outliers out here, and I know in personal experience.
it's about the truth. This is not me taking sides, because I believe that the world is in shambles. I believe that the communities are jacked up. I believe that, and all of this has to do with human behavior and how the sexes relate to each other and how the sexes relate to the planet. So it's not all on men. Men have their things that's wrong with them.
For sure.
I spoke about that.
But
Yeah.
the question I was going to say is that with men, right, I feel like as a man, we're held accountable at almost every turn, right? Your mama holds you accountable. Your friends hold you accountable. Everybody kind of holds you accountable. Do you see the same type of path for women?
No.
Okay.
No,
So
I think women are allowed to be, they're allowed to be delusional. They're allowed to not be disciplined. See, give you an example. If a boy child is crying and a girl child is crying, if he fell and she fell, they're going to look at him and be like, boys don't cry, this, that, and the other one. And they'll just look at her. That's what girls do. They're just emotional. Let them cry. Let them do this. Well, that's bad, because as girls grow older, they never know how to control and govern their emotions. They're allowed to allow any emotion, anger, frustration, sadness, depression, no matter what, they're allowed to express it however they want to express it. I've also come to the conclusion that, well, let me back up, because everybody knows that I date women.
right.
And when it comes to me speaking about relationship dynamics, a lot of the rebuttals always say, well, lesbian relationships have so much more violence. They only say that because they're thinking about a relationship where a man might be putting his hands on a woman. They're not including the other side of the equation, where women are putting their hands on men and men are not calling up cops.
True. Yeah.
Women are very violent. A woman will put her hands on a man. She will hit him, spit in his face, call him all kinds of names, and everything is totally fine. Women are allowed to do this, and nobody should say anything about it. Now, these women they will be in these relationships and they will hit a man, and they will take that same behavior and they'll take it to a lesbian relationship. See, it's the same person, same behavior.
Right.
Right? But it's looked at as different because the man is stronger and he's expected to hold himself. But a lot of times in a lot of these relationships, women are extremely narcissistic and violent. And this is what I have discovered as I continue to work with women. And so what I realize is that women actually want men to be slaves. They actually want men to be their personal slaves.
But you did preach that men were slaves in our first interview.
Yes, they are. They are slaves. But who are they slaves to? They're slaves to corporations, right? They're slaves to the military. They're slaves in everything that they do. Their whole purpose was for them to work for somebody. And that's what you see. The man then is a slave to his sex drive. And by a man being a slave to his sex drive, he turns around and becomes a slave to a woman who expects him to be a slave to his sex drive and her. So she uses that as a manipulation tool to try to get that man to do whatever she wants him to do. Well, here's the problem. Women don't live in reality. A lot of women are very, very, very delusional. And so they have these ideas about men in their head, what they want these men to be. It's like they got a movie and they have a cast and there's a role for this knight in shining armor that's going to sweep her off her feet and worship her and only her for eternity. His eyes see nobody else but her. His phallus sees nobody else but her. And so she wants that man. She finds a man that she likes. She creates this picture. She's driven by sex and she wants to trap that man to worship her for eternity. And if he does not play to every single thing that she has in her mind, she wants to blow up the world. She wants to set off a detonator to destroy everything around her if things don't go exactly her way.
Nailed it.
And so what I come to realize is that a lot of men are struggling, trying to placate to the delusions of women. Not only are they struggling trying to placate to the delusions of women, they are still struggling trying to control just their own biological urges and their neurological messages that are going. There's a lot of things that are going on with men, right? And because women ultimately don't care. Women don't care. Women say they like men. Women say they want men. But I've come to discover that women don't like men. And the only reason that they're dealing with men is because they have this addiction to sex and power.
This is a lot to take in, I know. We're seeing one of the biggest man haters in America who even started a cult-like following around her to destroy masculinity, changing a tune. And at the same time, it's quite liberating to know that we have one of the strongest oppositions waving a white flag right now and telling us that everything we were saying were right. Because she sounds like she's in the red pill community right now. She sounds like Myron Gaines.
And they feel like they can get a man to do what they want them to do and placate to their ego. That's the only reason why they're dealing with him. But if a man starts talking, if he starts expressing himself, women will write it off as mansplaining. They'll write it off as misogyny, all of that, no matter what. So there's a lot of frustration that's going on with men because a male is a male. Everything that I said about males has not changed. That is still the same.
It hasn't changed, right? But
Right.
I do feel like men will definitely receive this version way better because now it's like you're actually saying a lot of the things that men have been saying, like the accountability piece, like I feel like because men don't want to get killed, they don't even speak on it. Like it's almost like an unwritten rule. A man will walk in and he'd be like, you know what I'm saying? But
Right.
they won't speak on it because they get killed online. They get called sassy. They get called whatever. And so you have now stepped into this role and we're sitting back like, Go ahead. We rooting you on now because now you have taken on the role to, like you're saying, kind of like the Kevin Samuels was quote unquote trying to get them to see what we see, but we just can't express because we get killed for it.
Well, and it's not only that y'all get killed for it, it's really because males have communication barriers. Your brains are not wired the same. You don't have the same capabilities as women. So you all's communication abilities are not nearly as strong as women. So y'all don't even really know how to convey.
Really?
To a woman to a way that she will really understand what you're going through. She can't see it, and y'all don't know how to explain it. The thing with me is I can see both sides. See, I'm not on men's side and I'm not on women's side. I'm on the truth side. And I can see men and I can see women. And because women have the womb and women are they are the mothers and they are the first teacher of the child. The fact of the matter is that the majority of the weight does lie on women. Women just don't realize it because women think that they're the same as men. Now, men know because you all don't have the power that women have. And so it comes to a place where people are blinded by their privilege. Privileged people don't know that they have privileges.
That sounds kind of familiar. Where did I hear that before?
Privilege is invisible to those that have it.
I mean, this is blowing my mind right now. Seeing Princella switch sides. And I'm seeing it because I think this is her revenge back on the sisterhood. The part that left her hanging out to dry. When things hit the fan with her and B.Taylor, the sisterhood left her. Some people stayed, but the majority jumped ship faster than I don't know what. And I know she's feeling a way about that. And right now she's revealing more of the secrets, the things that we already knew in the red pill community. She's just admitting it. And she's telling us, yes, you were right. So fellas, don't take that knowledge and try to abuse it. Just let it ease your mind. It's no more need to argue with anyone about this no more. Now it's time to really live your life.
So women actually believe that men were created to serve them. Women believe that men were put on this planet to serve and worship them and work for them. Women believe that a man is to go to work and work his fingers to the bone until he dies so that she can have a soft life and just ride easy. Women really believe that.
Especially American women. And for the first time, she's cooking. But I still got my eye on her though. And I really believe that she's feeling a way about the sisterhood hanging her out to dry after that B.Taylor situation. And now she's giving up everything that she's been gatekeeping. She did her studies on men. Now she's giving her studies on women, which we already know. However, it's just very refreshing to see someone actually admitting their wrongs.
This is a real need for men. To the point where women think that men just want sex all the time. They don't understand that a lot of times it's more of a need as opposed to a want. So men find themselves unconsciously chasing women, and they feel like they're being punished for chasing these women, and they are being taxed for their biology. Men feel like they are being taxed for their biology. So women realize this. So this is where the men who might have access to women, this is where they start calling these men simps, because they are led by their biology and they start to placate to the delusions of the woman and her power-hungry self. And so when a man falls for that, other men don't respect that because it's like you not being a man and having self-control, you letting this woman manipulate your biology for that.
We call that being whipped.
See, this is where the conflict come in.
Right.
Right? So all I do is this is my thing. I really sit down here and analyze and understand what's going on. Women don't understand the male world at all. So for me, I'm just a conduit. I can communicate the male issues to women who actually want to be better people.
Can we talk about, let's say, the top 3 male issues that you have to usually communicate to women.
Lord have mercy. The number one thing is the stress that men have to deal with in the world that is not the same as women. Okay? Because women really have it in their mind that men are not being trained. They're just not being taught how to communicate. They're not being taught how to feel. Women really think that this is an educational difference between men and women as opposed to a neurological and biological difference. They don't understand that. So they don't understand that the male has a threshold of what he can handle and what he cannot handle. So women don't understand that they're placing an enormous amount of pressure and weight on men that exceed the capabilities of males by nature, which is part of the reason why so many males fail, because by nature, males are not social creatures. The male's nature is designed in the wild to spend all his time and energy trying to build himself up to be a competitor against other men, to conquer them, to win the reward of being able to pass his genes along. And as a result of that, the male is not wired to be a caretaker. He is not wired to be quote unquote social and family oriented. He's not wired to be monogamous. So you now take this person out of a individual where he has to be really solo. You take him out of a solo, one man, every man for himself environment and put him in a social system and now tell him to do everything that goes against how he's wired. From thoughts, behaviors, sex, everything. It all goes against the male's nature. And then the women, because women hate self, I figured out women hate themselves and they hate other women. So because of that, because women do not have camaraderie amongst themselves, they have no loyalty amongst themselves, and they have no support amongst themselves, they have abandoned their relationships with their true supporters that could help them in child rearing and everything. And they look to men to replace women and take on the duties of women. That's what they're doing. And so they're trying to put so much weight on men being caretakers, helpers in the house, making all this money, competing with other men. But it's messed up because women also inhibit male development by coddling males too much, stepping in and handling conflict for males to the point where they can't integrate socially. They can't be competitors. So the male is really hindered. Then when he gets into a relationship, he's not been able to juggle all of this stuff. And since the women are narcissistic and don't know anything about males, the woman is only caring about what's good for her, what she wants. He's not doing what she wants him to do, so he's failing.